On an autumn day in 1854, 2,000 Russian cavalry threatened the British flank. General James York Scarlett led 300 British cavalry up a steep hill into the face of the oncoming Russians. Seeing this, other British soldiers followed. The Russians were defeated. The charge of the gallant 300, the Heavy Brigade. Down the hill, thousands of Russians, thousands of horsemen drew to the valley and stayed. For Scarlett and Scarlett's 300 were riding by when the points of the Russian lances arose in the sky. And he called, "Left wheel into line," and they wheeled and obeyed. Then he looked at the host that had halted he knew not why, and he turned half round, and he bade his trumpeter sound to the charge, and he rode on ahead as he waved his blade to the gallant 300 whose glory will never die. Follow, and up the hill, up the hill, up the hill followed the Heavy Brigade. The trumpet, the gallop, the charge, and the might of the fight. Thousands of horsemen had gathered there on the height, with a wing pushed out to the left and a wing to the right. And who shall escape if they close? But he dashed up alone through the great gray slope of men, swayed his saber and held his own like an Englishman, there and then. All in a moment followed with force 3 that were next in their fiery course, wedged themselves in between horse and horse, fought for their lives in the narrow gap they had made, 4 among thousands, and up the hill, galloped the gallant 300, the Heavy Brigade. Fell like a cannon shot, burst like a thunderbolt, crashed like a hurricane, broke through the mass from below, drove through the midst of the foe, plunged up and down, to and fro, rode flashing, blow upon blow. Brave Inniskillens and Greys, whirling their sabers in circles of light, and some of us, all in amaze, who were held for a while from the fight, and were only standing in gaze when the dark, muffled Russian crowd folded its wings from the left and the right and rolled them around like a cloud. Oh, mad for the charge and the battle were we, when our own good redcoats sank from sight like drops of blood in a dark gray sea, and we turned to each other, whispering, all dismayed. Lost are the gallant 300 of Scarlett's brigade. Lost, one and all, were the words muttered in our dismay. But they rode like victors and lords, through the forest of lances and swords, in the heart of the Russian hordes. They rode, or they stood at bay. Struck with the sword hand and slew, down with the bridle hand drew the foe from the saddle, and threw underfoot there in the fray. Ranged like a storm, or stood like a rock in the wave of a stormy day, till suddenly, shock upon shock, staggered the mass from without, drove it in wild disarray, for our men galloped up with a cheer and a shout, and the foemen surged and wavered and reeled up the hill, up the hill, out of the field, and over the brow, and away. Glory to each and to all, and the charge that they made. Glory to all the 300, and all the brigade.